All right, I'm Eric Jacobson. I've been a tester for about 13 years. Currently, I'm a test manager at Turner Broadcasting in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is Sujitha. She's one of the testers that I work with. And I'd like to talk to you today about something that I call tester fatigue. And you probably already kind of know what it is already. It's something that you've observed in yourself probably when you've been testing, something you've seen with other other testers that you work with. And I'm going to first define it, and then I'm going to give you about 8 suggestions that you can use to deal with it. So hopefully one of those will make sense to you, and you can go back and experiment with it. So first, let's talk a little bit about what I mean when I say tester fatigue. Here's kind of what I think. Here's the way that testers work. Let's say we are going to deploy to production about every 3 weeks or every 3 weeks. I think during the first week, testers want to find bugs. They feel awesome. They feel valuable, and that's what really thrills them. Sujitha will always come to my desk and say, I found this awesome bug. This is all during week 1. During week 2, it's kind of similar, but they're kind of thinking things are going to wind down soon because I only have 1 more week after this to finish all my testing, but I'm still kind of happy that I'm finding bugs still. Then week 3 comes around, especially towards the end of week 3 when we're getting ready to ship. Testers actually don't want to find bugs. Maybe you can relate to that. And I've actually seen this kind of a thing when I'm with testers. They'll see something and they'll actually say, I didn't see that. Because what does that mean? That means now you have to log a bug. Now you got to work late. You got to wait for the churn. You got to wait for the next build with the bug fix, and then you got to test all over again, right? It's a real drag. This is what I refer to as tester fatigue. Testers get stressed out about this, and it kind of feels sometimes like when I'm trying to finish testing something myself, it's like that dream where you're trying to run down the hallway in slow motion, but you never get to the end because you keep finding more bugs. You go in, you verify those. Oh no, there's another one. So what is the danger here with tester fatigue? Why do we even care about this phenomenon? Well, when we get fatigued, we tend to avoid testing that takes energy, and we become status quo testers. What is the kind of testing that takes energy? Probably finding that bug, logging that bug, actually saying that things aren't correct. We think we're not done. We have some more problems. One of the things I read earlier this year was that Columbia University did a study of parole board hearing judges. They observed 1,000 of them. And what they found out was that after these judges take a break, they're about 65% more likely to grant paroles to criminals. But then after the break, after they've been making all these decisions, seeing all of these different criminals, the percentage of paroles accepted has dropped down all the way to 0. So you can see here in the chart, the dotted lines are the breaks. The first one is lunch. They come back from lunch. They're granting people paroles in the afternoon. Then they have a snack break. Okay, then they're okay. They're willing to make the decisions. Then basically, if you're a criminal, you do not want to be heard at the end of the day in your parole board hearing because you're more likely to not get accepted. The reason they studied the parole board judges is because this type of judge has to make lots of quick decisions in a short amount of time. So the problem is, as these judges would get fatigued in their decision-making, because decision-making is taxing, right, they would tend to go for the status quo decision, which is not grant the parole. Because if they're going to grant the parole, what does that mean? That means that they have to write a case of why they think this person's not going to commit crime again, and then if they're wrong, then they have to be accountable for that and they look bad. So it's much easier to say everything's okay. I think that's the case with software testing. It's much easier for us at the end of week 3 before we're ready to ship to say, I think everything's okay, than it is to say, hold on, there's a problem here. Nobody go home yet. Okay, so what can we do to prevent tester fatigue? I'm going to suggest 4 things you can do if you're a tester and 4 things you can do if you're a test manager. So if you're a tester, you can go back and suggest these to your manager and vice versa. First, let's talk about what a tester can do. Now, a tester probably doesn't have the ability to delegate testing tasks to other testers. But one thing they can delegate is decision making. So I talked about how decision making is very taxing. As a tester, that's one of the most stressful things is you're constantly making decisions. I'm on charter, I'm following my mission. I see something else there. What do I do? Do I write that down? Do I investigate it? So I think one of the things you can do if you're a tester is you can try to delegate some of the decision making to other people. You could ask your business analyst, your PM, you could ask your test manager, and basically the easiest way to do that is to take a look, is to get three things. You can note your potential bugs and tests. You could say, hey, I've got these 3 potential bugs I noticed, and I've got 2 other features that I really haven't tested yet, and I have 2 days left. Where should I spend my time? Let somebody else make that tough decision, because then you don't have to worry about whether their decision was the right one or the wrong one. Second thing testers can do is they can test in chunks. So how many of you have heard of the Pomodoro Technique? Okay, here's what it is basically. Gary? Thanks, Gary. Okay. So if we focus on dedicated chunks of testing and then force ourselves to take a break after that, that will kind of help. If you see what happened with the judges when we come back from the break, we're a little bit more refreshed. We can have these intense chunks of testing. The one you keep hearing about, especially at this conference, is session-based testing. And you can use the Rapid Reporter tool that Shmuel developed recently, which is free. So session-based software, or session-based test management, sorry, is very similar to the Pomodoro technique, but it's a little bit better for testers because it's got some framework around it. And I think there's actually a session going on right now that you're not in, so that probably means most of you already understand what it is. Okay, so the third and fourth suggestions that I have for testers have to do with time. So I could have called this talk Combating Tester Stress, but I'm calling it Combating Tester Fatigue. I think stress and fatigue are very intertwined with testing. And I think one of the things that will fatigue a tester is the amount of stress that they're enduring for a long period of time. And a lot of that comes from they never feel like they have enough time to do their testing. I wrote a blog post about 2 years ago, and the title of the post was, "Am I the only tester with no time to test?" And I basically went into this cathartic sort of rant about how I have to go to meetings all day long. And I did a little research, and I found out on average, each of us attends 68.1 meetings per month, and 50% of that time spent is unproductive, which means about 30 of your hours each month is spent wasting time in a meeting. So Adam White, who's another tester who was sort of a mentor for me at the time, called me up, and he gave me the best piece of advice I got that year, which was, why don't you try to skip meetings and see what happens? And I really liked the "and see what happens," so I tried that, and guess what happened? Really nothing. I got the same information in about the time of 5 minutes by talking to people after the meeting. And so this is something that I think is a good practice for testers, to actually skip meetings, and it actually, I think, helps to even build your credibility as a tester, because you say, look, I'm not going to have time for this meeting. I got to test this thing. Can I just catch up with you afterwards? And they think, yeah, this guy's really busy. Man, he's a good tester. So that's something I suggest. The other thing I suggest is, we always hear about work-life balance, and usually when people talk about that, they're putting an emphasis on the life part. In other words, don't work late. Make sure you spend time with your family. You know, you'll get stressed out if you spend too much time at work. And this is sort of counterintuitive for my talk, but I firmly believe sometimes you need to swing the balance to work, especially towards the end of an iteration maybe. If you're going to have crunch time, don't plan things after work. So I specifically, the weekend we're going to ship, I always make sure I'm not going to go to a concert that night. I'm not going to go out to dinner with friends. I usually tell my wife I'm probably going to be home late. I do that maybe Thursday and Friday of that week. And what happens is I'm a lot more relaxed at work. I'm not looking at the clock. If I find a bug at the last minute, I don't care. I'm going to have to work late, but I've already planned for it. Usually I don't have to, but it's the fact that I've given myself the ability to, and I don't have to worry about things wrapping up, and it really helps. All right, so now let's talk about 4 things that a manager can do. The first is they can set a good pace. So back to a 3-week iteration, during week 1, what I like to do is tell my testers, really, let's not put much energy at all into testing. Let's do something else. Let's catch up on our testing blogs. Let's have a retrospective. Let's maybe talk about a different process we could experiment with. Because really, we know that we're going to have the most testing to do in week 2 and especially towards the end of week 3. Now, some of you might be doing a lot of automation. You might want to flip that. You might be doing a lot of automation at the beginning, and then during week 3, you're executing a lot of programmatic tests and doing some checking. So you may be able to relax more during week 3, but I think that pace is good so that it's like working out. I always work out on the Stairmaster, and I put it on interval, okay, and I get it going, I'm breaking a sweat, and then it drops down to this interval thing where you can kind of rest, and then you start working out hard again. So I think that variation is really helpful and refreshing. Second thing that a manager can do is assign static goals. I used to say, our goal today is to verify all of the fixed bugs. And then what would happen is, we start off with a list of about 40 of them, and as we're testing, we're logging more bugs, of course. Those are getting fixed, and the fixed bug list is not a static list. It continues to grow. So now what we do is we take a snapshot of it. We'll come in the morning and we say, our goal today is we will verify all of the bugs that are fixed right now. Any other bugs we logged today, we don't have to verify those today. We're going to go home as soon as we're done with this static list. And I think that's nice because in testing, it's very hard to go home at the end of the day and feel like you're actually done with something. Okay. The third thing a manager can do is to not reward test completion. So one of the things that other types of managers can do is they can give you a bunch of tasks to their directs, and they can say, I want you to finish these. Your number one goal is, finish these 4 tasks, and they get rewarded when they're done. The problem with testing is if we're only rewarding testers for finishing something, we're not rewarding the actual quality of the testing that you're actually doing. So if you give an unskilled job a task and you say, finish testing this feature maybe, and then you reward them at the end of it because they finished quickly, you may give them 3 other features to test and reward them because they're testing them quickly. What's happening with the unskilled tester? The unskilled tester is making more work for themselves because really better testing equals more work, right? Better testing means you're executing more tests, you're finding more bugs, there's more churn. Now you got to verify those bugs that you found. So I think it's important to be careful and not just reward testers based on getting things done. You can't always say, okay, 1 minute left. You can't always say, are you done yet? Are you done yet? I think some better questions are, what can you tell me about it right now? What are the bugs that you found? So that unskilled tester who quickly finished testing those tasks, they may not have discovered anything. You can ask them about the happy path even. What types of other interesting things did you find out? And especially if a tester finds a bug on the very last minute before we're about to ship, you need to go crazy and make them a hero because, oh man, that almost made it past us. That almost got into production. To try to fight that whole feeling of, oh man, what a drag. The very final thing that a manager can do to help with tester fatigue is also, I think, one of the most important, and that is that managers should actually be testing. So when you see testers stressed out, and even if you don't see them stressed out, you need to participate in the testing, and that's the best way to stay empathetic with what testers are actually doing and to be able to help your testers and understand what it is that they're testing. That's it. What types of questions do you have?
One of the points I would like to add stress is how about improving the skills of the tester, right? Unskilled, when you compare an unskilled tester and a skilled tester, I would say a skilled tester would face less fatigue, right? So something weekend testing is going on live now in the next room, Wi-Fi. How about participating in that? So I'd say once we improve skills, maybe we'll feel less fatigue.
Okay, so just to repeat that, so people who aren't here can hear it. The comment was another way to alleviate tester fatigue is to help improve the skills of the tester, and the suggestion was to participate in weekend testing. And so I guess the idea is a tester who has more skills will be less fatigued. It's good point.
You're shy this morning. Okay. I like how you mentioned the Pomodoro Technique because you can use it for everything in your life. If you have a pile of dishes you have to get done and you don't have the motivation to do it, you can just start the clock, uh, do the dishes for 25 minutes and you have everything done real quick. I use it for everything in my life actually, and I saw that I became very productive doing this for all kind of tasks.
Okay, and the comment was he likes to use the Pomodoro technique in things other than just testing. He likes to use it in his regular life just to get things done. And the example he gave was cleaning dishes. And you said it takes you 25 minutes to clean your dishes?
Depending on how much. Don't let yourself to pile up so much stuff to do.
And do you use a kitchen timer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you actually use that for testing as well?
Yep. And for writing test cases and for doing sessions and whatever you need to do. And you can extend to one or two or even three Pomodoros before you run out of brain health, I think.
Okay, cool.
Okay. New thread, 49.
I liked your reward the hero for finding the last minute bugs because the tester's already probably beating himself up for not finding it, and you don't really want to hear why you missed that. And so it's great that your thought is to say, good, we caught it before it went on.
Okay, and the comment was, do you want me to keep repeating these still?
Yes.
For the okay, and the
Afraid so.
okay, no problem. And the comment was she agrees with the rewarding testers when they find a bug at the last minute because sometimes testers can feel guilty that they haven't found bugs prior to that, and I think that sometimes testers can. Just to add to your comment, I think testers can also be reluctant to tell you that they found a bug at the last minute because that means they didn't find it earlier, which could reflect poorly on them. So it's really important to make that tester a hero, to take the pressure off. Don't ask questions like, why didn't we find this earlier? You may ask that question later on, but not right at that moment. The important thing there is to make that tester feel very heroic.
94, same thread.
I've worked in a very weird environment once when the boss used it to punish us for not finding the bug before it hit production. So instead of having being happy for us because we avoided it going live, he just wanted to give us some kind of punishment of like working overtime or sometimes even trying to lower our paycheck for that month. So it's important to have this mindset of rewarding for finding bugs. That's what we work for.
What did you what cases would your boss punish you if you found a
bug before it went live.
Okay, I see. So you're okay. So what he's saying is his boss punished him if bugs were found in production. Oh,
Right before production.
oh, right before production. Okay, so
Production.
if they weren't found earlier, you'd get some kind of a punishment.
Yeah. Should have been found much earlier in the process instead of just a few days before hitting production. So they couldn't
And
have enough time to call the developers and the IT guys to prepare a new deploy.
and so how did that make the team feel when you'd get punished for finding bugs late?
Really bad because sometimes we even have had some bugs filed in the bug management tool and it was found in production but it wasn't fixed. And even though we reported it, nobody cared about it. So when the client found it in production, the manager asked us why we didn't find it before, and we said we find it before. It's on the bug tracking tool. Why didn't you? have someone to fix it. And the team morale that was just very down. It was very low back then.
So the morale was so low in the team that they weren't even motivated to. Well, they were logging bugs, you're saying, but they really weren't. They didn't care at that point
Yeah.
because of all the threats of letting bugs escape.
Yeah, they only care about the bug when the client found it, and they try to punish us because it didn't find it, even though it was.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the boss would like only care about the bug once the clients found it.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, really quickly, same thread, 163.
If you reward that person, for that last minute bug, don't you run a risk of somebody finding a bug early on and keeping it tight to the vest and not reporting it so that they can come in and be that hero at the end who says, "Look at this great bug I just found."
The question was, if you wait till the end of an iteration to reward somebody for finding a bug, isn't it possible that you're actually motivating testers to not log bugs, to keep them secret until the end so that they can become a hero? And I think that's an excellent question. I wonder if it could be. I think in practice I haven't never had that issue because it still is such a toll on the tester. They still end up having to work late and they still feel bad, the guilty feeling that we talked about a little earlier. But I think that could be possible with some testers. I never really thought about it.
We are out of time. I'm sorry. If you'd like to continue the conversation.
Okay. Thank you.